I would like to announce that a quorum is present, the meeting is duly called, and a notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. The time is 6 p.m. The following board members are in attendance: Catherine Sells, Sheila Taylor, Michelle Akateb, Dr. Stacy Barker, Allison Lasan, Jenny Prosnick, and Dr. Bonner will be joining us shortly. I've asked board member Catherine Sells to lead us in prayer.
Please bow your heads if you so choose. We come before you with gratitude for the gift of education and the opportunities it brings. As school begins this new year, we ask for your presence to fill every classroom, hallway, and heart. Bless the students with wisdom, focus, and a desire to learn and grow, and grant teachers patience, creativity, and strength as they guide and nurture young minds. Protect all who work in and attend our schools and keep them safe from harm. Help parents and families to be supportive and encouraging, and make communities unite to lift up and care for one another. Let kindness, respect, and understanding flourish among students and staff, and above all, may your love and peace dwell in these places, fostering an environment where every child feels valued and inspired. We entrust this school year to you, Lord, and pray for your guidance and blessings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
We will now convene into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.071 and 074. The time is 6:01 p.m. We will now reconvene into open session. The time is 6:53 p.m. I would like it noted that Dr. Bonner joined us in closed session at 6:03 p.m. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. Next on the agenda is to consider action on items discussed in closed session. Personnel recommendations for the Executive Director of Special Education. Would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Sells.
Madam President, I move that the Board approve Tina Clark as the Executive Director of Special Education as recommended by administration.
Second, Dr. Barker. All those in favor? And that is unanimous, 7-0. Congratulations, Ms. Clark. Would you like to come up so we can meet your sweet family? You can tell us all about them. Ms. Alcatab, could you read our mission and vision statements for us tonight?
Yes, I will. The mission statement for Lewisville ISD is engaging and inspiring learners and leaders. The vision statement is all students are confident equipped with the knowledge and skills to thrive and adapt for their future.
Public comments are next on the agenda, and tonight we have no speakers. So we will move on to discussion items. First up is the superintendent report. That's you, Dr. Rapp.
Yes, Madam President, thank you so much. All right, Board, we have before you this evening, first up, an addendum to the LEF MOU. When you all approved the MOU, that was prior to the change in leadership, and now with Bill Lee working with LEF, he's brought forward a few changes, and I thought it would be important to bring these forward to all of you, and truly that we formalize these changes, if approved, on Monday night as a part of the MOU as an addendum. So there's 3 items that you all have to consider that LEF is proposing. That would be a revenue sharing agreement with a 60-40 split. Any sales that come from the bus ads, 60% of those would go to the school district, 40% of those would go to LEF. Bill helped start working with the bus ads when he was working with communications, and he'd like to continue that work with LEF. And then the second item is the work that was started while he was in communications as well, which is the barter agreement with NFM Grandscape. And what we would simply do there is share back and forth the ad space. So there would be times where LISD would have the ad space, and there would be times where LEF would have the ad space. And so we're proposing that be a shared arrangement also. And just as a point of note for our community, that ad space cost us nothing. NFM Grandscape provides us the ability to advertise out there at no charge. And I know people thought maybe that'd be a way to reduce the budget, but we get that space for no charge at all. And then the revenue sharing agreement with the bus ads and this sharing of the bartering and the ad space with the NFM would be intact. There's no proposed termination date for these 2 items. But definitely, if there's something that would need to be changed, I would absolutely, Bill and I would bring that back forward to you all as a board. And, you know, our job really is to bring that MOU to you all every single year. And so moving forward, we would want to put these pieces just in the regular structure of the MOU when it comes back before you all. So I'll take any questions, but I know you also have an opportunity to submit questions, and I can share those with Bill and get you back the answers with the board agenda questions also. And that's all I have on that one at this time.
Are there any questions?
All right, so the next item we are bringing forward to follow up on conversations resulting from the decision about the school retirements and boundary adjustments, and that is to look at making a change to FDB local, but by making this change, we would do it in the form of a resolution because basically the change would only apply to the students that have been impacted by these decisions. So typically what FDB does is we call it grandfathering, but it grandfathers students who are entering grades 4 and 5 and their siblings, and if they had a sibling that was entering kinder, they're grandfathered as well. If they want to stay at their current school and they don't want to have to be moved to a different school when you have a boundary adjustment. For middle school, it's been if they are a rising 8th grader, they can be grandfathered. So what this resolution would do is it would basically say if kids were subject to any boundary adjustments at any grade levels, we would allow them to tell us that they want to stay at their current campus. So all students in grades 1 through 5 and students that are in grades 6 and 7. Well, rising 1 through 5, because your current 5th and 8th graders will roll on out of there. And then it would also allow their siblings to be grandfathered as well. The one sibling that is not addressed in this resolution, because siblings down to entering kindergartners have been addressed by FDB, would be if I have a sibling that is an entering 6th grader. That's not been a category that's been addressed by FDB before. Those siblings would just need to apply for a regular transfer, and then we could work to grant that transfer. That's what they've had to do in the past, okay? So this would be intact for these students to be able to let us know they want to stay at their current campus, they don't want to be moved. They will still have to provide their own transportation. That does not change when they choose to be grandfathered. And so I'll take any questions or feedback on this resolution if we need to make any changes before you all vote on it on Monday night.
Dr. Bonner?
I don't know of any changes, Dr. Rapp. I'm just appreciative that this responsiveness is available, right? We definitely moved some people's cheese when we changed school boundaries or retire campuses, and I'm thankful that the district is willing to take on a great customer service piece in my mind. This seems like a pretty easy thing to do. I know it's not for Mr. Kosh and all the people that run the transportation and the school attendance pieces, so I'm just thankful that we can be responsive to our community and help out where we can, so thank you.
Are there any other questions? My only one is, if the board approves the resolution as written, is how are we going to be communicating this so that families know that it's available and that they don't necessarily have to go through what I like to call the transfer portal. I know that's the wrong word.
Great word. So we were meeting today actually to touch base on communication. So we promised families in the last communication that they got that they would be hearing from us again the week of January 13th. That allows us to know what the decision was going to be on Monday night by the board, and we can then be able to ensure that this decision is woven into those communications that will roll out that week. As Dr. Bonner said, it is actually quite a complex web of communications that we're looking at right now. We have about 5 different groups that we have a little bit different type of communication going to based on their scenario. So I'm very appreciative, speaking not only of the student services team, but Amanda Brim with comms and technology, and Adrian Gall with learning. I mean, there's so many departments that are impacted in looking at this, because you've got transfers from special ed to dual language to now students who are going to be eligible for this grandfathering provision. So it is a lot, but we will communicate with all groups of people and explain everything that way. We'll have specialized forms in Skyward that will allow people in different scenarios to give us information about if they want to be grandfathered and different things like that, depending on their scenario. And our special ed team, I'm very appreciative for them. Miss Litchfield and the leaders have committed to the students who are in our self-contained classrooms are going to get personalized phone calls about their moves and be sure that we're handling those questions personally. So a lot of communication rolling out the week of January 13th.
To piggyback on Dr. Bonner's comments, I agree that it says something about a district and the customer service that we're willing to provide for families, to give them choices so that they don't feel like something was done to them, that they have some ownership in the education of their children, that they partner with, that we're grateful that they partner for us with. So thank you very much for that. Is that it? Yep. Yay. Next up, Chief of Staff report, Dr. Miller. Oh, look, you're going to come to the mic.
All right, good evening. So I come with an update on the calendar with 2 proposed options to consider. Of course, you know this has been a semester-long piece of work, and a lot has happened up until this point. So we started in September and met with some groups, got some input. The committee came together and formed some options, went back out and got more input, and then came back and we've narrowed it down to 2 different options. Just a summary reminder of the guidelines for the parameters for how we create the calendar. Of course, we're a DOI district, and so we can start before the 4th Monday, and we can't end before May 15th, which would be really hard to do. But and then we have we're counting our minutes for instruction, and then how professional learning and work time count or do not count, because one of the biggest things we've heard over the years is that staff wants more work time, but how it impacts calendar, that's really hard in order to implement that. So we have themes that we've looked at. Remember last year, the theme of limiting half days for students was something that we started incorporating based on feedback and funding impact. And then this year, we really heard from groups. They really, remember this year we started on a Tuesday, and we end on the last Friday before Memorial Day. That was in order to get all those instructional minutes in there. And we've just heard from a lot of people, we really want a Wednesday start if we can get that. It's really hard to do. But we tried to look at some options to do that. And then we also heard again from staff of how do we get more work time built into the calendar. There are other districts that have a fall break, or they have a Friday is a work day and then there's a weekend. And so how can we do that? And then families, when we brought up different options, they really liked maybe not a fall break, but could we have like a 3 or 4 day weekend, especially in October and February, where there are 2 big months that they wanted. So we brought the calendars all back together again to look at them one more time. Important to know right now, so every district is required to have the same the minimum instructional minutes of 75.6. What your daily, how long you go daily is what impacts how you can create your calendar to make that happen. Right now, Lewisville currently goes 435 minutes with the exception of elementary STEM. And so all the districts around us go more minutes. Students go more minutes a day, which gives them more flexibility, and teachers can have a work day because they're adding up more minutes quicker than we are, or they can have a fall break or a break in February because they go more minutes a day. So the districts have that advantage of advertising that with teachers, where we hear that our teachers want that, but we're really limited to do that whenever we're at 435. So when we went around to all the different groups, and we started this year because of that theme of let's look at a 435 calendar and let's look at a 445 calendar. And when we went around to all the different groups, the majority of people really like the 445 calendar, but these are people that they've been in the work of the calendar, or I went to the PTA council, but I spent 20 minutes explaining how you create the calendar before I showed them this, right? So we said, instead of just deciding let's do a 445, why don't we show everyone, here's what a 435 calendar would look like, here's what a 445 calendar would look like, so that people could decide on the calendar based on that instead of us just saying we're going to do these minutes. So for option A, that calendar is very similar to what our calendar is this year. We would start on a Tuesday. There is not a way to start on a Wednesday with these number of minutes unless you take out holidays that our community typically likes and that their feedback is. So we also end on Friday, that last Friday before Labor Day or Memorial Day. Then the work days, we were not able to increase those with this calendar. Student learning days are 175 student days. Then October and February were the months that we were looking at. So you have a 4-day and a 3-day week there. And then in February, staff does not have an extended weekend, but students do. And then, so that's that one. And then the second option, if we went to a 445 calendar, we would be able to start on Wednesday, and we actually would be able to end on Thursday. So that's 2 additional days that are impacted by that. Then we can add additional work time for staff in this calendar. You have 3 less student learning days, but students have, because one of them is October and the other one is in February, so they're extended longer. And then we learned a lot from this year about Election Day, how we did virtual, and so we would do that same thing for this calendar. So when we went to groups and talked to them about these two options, they said, we really want to know what start and end time looks like whenever we look at these calendars. So that is part of the communication out that we will do whenever we share these two different options. It's important to know for either one of those that the staff time does not change. So there's still, staff are working still the same amount of time. It's just the time that kids are there. It's 10 additional minutes of what the staff is already there. And we added, based on feedback, we added 5 minutes at the beginning and 5 minutes at the end. That was the feedback of what everyone had asked if we added 10 minutes. If you notice STEM, currently elementary STEM goes 25 additional minutes right now. So when we started this program, it was determined that for the STEM curriculum, we would need additional 25 minutes based on changes in TEKS and also how we integrate now, like for instance, math and science is part of STEM, but how we integrate that into our curriculum and our programming and scheduling at the STEM campuses. It was determined that next year they need about 10 additional minutes than anyone else instead of 25. So if option A, calendar, were to be the one that was preferred, then STEM would go 10 minutes longer than others, elementary STEM. If option B was the one that was preferred, then all elementaries would get out at the same time because that is 10 additional minutes. And then those 10 additional minutes, we would restructure the schedule that everyone follows. So we've heard like in our middle school advisories, like, can we please have a few more minutes in passing period? Like I'm trying to get across. So that could be something we do, or it could be, we could extend the class time if we wanted to for those 10 minutes. So, those are the two options that we're coming with you for. Based on your feedback, we will send those options out with our newsletters that are coming up next week and have 2 weeks of voting on that, and then bring back the input for y'all in February for the February board meeting. And I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions? Dr. Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. It sounds like, we've had to take a little bit extra time to look at this, and it sounds like you've had to do quite a bit of explanation with different groups. What do you think that the visual of the calendar itself is going to be enough, or are there going to be additional explanations sent with the survey? What is that?
Yeah, great question. Sorry, I did not include that. So we are actually creating 2 different videos, one for staff and one for parents. But in addition to that, if you don't watch the video, we're going to create graphics to explain. If you are picking option A, here's what the start and end, this is what this means, and this is what this means. So you won't just click option A or B, you're clicking this or this. So yes, there'll be visuals and actual video for both groups so they understand.
Will that also include some of that rationale behind it of
Yes.
like why we're going in this direction?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Lasan.
If you don't mind, let's take a very quick trip down memory lane, and y'all, you have to help me. So I know that right after COVID, maybe it was the year after COVID, the big year, we extended the school day to collect minutes. We all decided it was terrible, and we didn't do that again. What was that? What did that look like?
That was 25 additional minutes, and we banked those minutes.
Right.
We did not use them as like, here's a work day. We just collected all those minutes, and then we ended up having like 7 additional days at the end of the year that we didn't do anything with. So
Okay.
this is different, and we are definitely, some input we got actually was 10 minutes was preferred, then the next option was adding 15 more minutes, and we were like, we think 15 might just be a little too much, So yes, it was 25 that we added.
Okay, and
that
so
year.
right now, we're looking at either keeping it the same or doing 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
And it will add in some more days. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor.
Piggybacking off Dr. Barker, I think a lot of communication is good, especially for parents, because if you do get a survey and it says, option A or B, you really need the details before you make that decision. My question, until I saw your slide, was going to be, well, what does this do to the start and end time? So I think including that is very important as well. So it looks like a good proposal with a lot of information. So over communication is good.
Dr. Bonner?
Shauna, help me remember, excuse me, way back in the day, we do 180 school days for students and 187 for teachers, correct? And of course, 187 hasn't changed because that's a salary implication, but 180 has to 175 this year. And the option B, I guess it is 172. Is that correct? Okay. And remind me also, when we do the survey, the input survey, that's parents and students and staff members, right? Do you recall over the last several years how many times the recommendation of that voting group has run contrary to what the board decided?
I can't remember it not running contrary.
The reason I'm asking is this is a advisory vote, correct? It's not a binding vote, and I'm just trying to recall. I don't recall it ever being that way either. And I'm interested to see where this lands. As I shared with you last time, I'm very concerned about reducing the instructional calendar by 2 days. And I don't see that, at least in my opinion, I don't see that changing on my part. So I'm very interested to see where the voters land. But I did want to reference that tonight, that it's advisory and it is not binding. So thank you.
Right. The survey is sharing your preferences.
Ms. Sells?
I just wanted to say I remember the day that we didn't have a say as a parent or as a community. And so I just want to thank the focus groups and all that have given input into that. I also want to thank Ms. Brim's team. I can remember the day that when we sent out for first surveys, we only sent out the calendar and you had to decipher it yourself. So we started adding the keys. And so now we're going into a different, even a more depth of differential. And so I think that's really key. I even, from one that has a master's in research and design, I'm questioning what you place first for options. So I think that we need to really look at that, and maybe as we send that out, maybe it's two different things that you have to go through, not just one document with them both and a one that covers over the other. I think it's important from a visual and from a research standpoint that that you look at it as having two genuine options. And I don't know how better to explain that, but you understand where I'm coming from? You read my mind. Okay, but I just want to say thank you, not only to the staff, but to all of those that put the work into this. It shows in what you've brought to us tonight, because this is much more in depth than we've ever seen, and especially with the differences. And it's interesting to see those TEKs move a different direction, as we know what the commissioner's long game is. I think we might even see some even more changes like that. So, thank you.
So, I have consternation because when I asked at last month's meeting if the board approves a calendar that is 445 minutes for the day, that's what we're going to do going forward. If the board approves for what we're doing now, that's what we're going to do going forward. So that next year we're not coming back and having this same discussion over and over and over again. So I do think that does need to be somehow communicated, because I think that's and to Dr. Bonner's point, it's an advisory, and I appreciate the fact that we ask our community. There are several districts around us who do not ask their community, their preferences. And I'm grateful that we've always valued our community's input. But they don't vote at the dais. It's the 7 of us. So I think that's my consternation with this more than anything else, is I think that if we, whatever the board decides, if we go with 445, then that's what we're doing for the foreseeable future. And I think that's something to think about, to Dr. Bonner's point about 3 less instructional days. So those are that's my thoughts and input on that. I do appreciate the work, because I know that nobody raises their hand to do calendar, but it is really important work, and I greatly appreciate it. Did she volunteer to do calendar? No, she did not. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. I do appreciate the work, but that's my concern, that parents are not just necessarily looking at the right now, that this is also a down the road advisory vote. Anything else? All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Miller. Next up is the finance report. Mr. Ware.
Thank you. John Martin with Hilltop Securities will join me for this first item to discuss the 2025 debt management program, including next bond sales. And as he's coming up, I'll go over some of the background information. So I've worked with Mr. Fite on identifying the cash flow requirements that are needed for upcoming projects. And he's looking at a bond sale of $300 million would fund the next phase of projects. And we'd be looking at doing that sale in the spring of 2025. And then the remaining funds for the remaining projects of the bond could be done in either 1 or 2 sales. So right now, the analysis that you'll see that Mr. Martin will show you and discuss includes the remaining $210 million in one sale for next spring. As I said, that could be split into a third. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Martin to discuss the projected fund of future debt service and the implications.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having us here this evening. You all have this sheet that's kind of an eye chart, maybe, that you see it on your screen. Okay. So you can see, reading from left to right, your existing debt service payments. Excuse me. And as it starts to wind its way down, you all have, again, a very attractive debt portfolio and payment structure, where these payments are going to start dropping off, and then you all have 20-year amortizations on your debt to try to achieve level debt service payments each time. Packaged in all this year is, once again, an overall debt management program where we're looking at giving money back to the taxpayers through the redemption of bonds and early retirement, flat out paying them off, not just refinancing and lowering the payment, but getting out of debt. And that would include a couple of pieces this year, which are the 2016 Bs is what we're proposing. And those bonds are out there. There's about $40 million that we can call in August, $39,400,000, and those are 5% bonds. So that's the highest rate that you all have on any of your debt. And those makes perfect sense to pay those off now that they're eligible to be paid off. They were non-PSF bonds originally, part of a refunding from way back when. And so those ultimately come due in 2028. So it'll be nice to get those out of the way, and there's savings there as a result of redeeming those that will result in interest savings of approaching $5.2 million just for that piece alone. If we take we take that out of the cash flow, add back in a proposed $300 million. That what we're thinking here is to sell the bonds in April with delivery in May. What that also does is that gives us an opportunity to look at other bonds that might be eligible for redemption or also callable in August of 2025. You all will remember that when you have the ability to refinance or refund bonds within 90 days of their call date. So if we sold in April and delivered in May, we'd be within that 90-day window. So we could look at other potential debt that maybe we don't have cash on hand to repay, but maybe we can save some money in debt service savings that might not be as great as the 5% bonds, but we're looking at some 5% bonds, from primarily 4% bonds from the 2016A. Right now, savings isn't great, but by the time we get to April, I don't know who's got a better crystal ball of anybody in this room. Maybe interest rates will find their groove and start heading down like we keep being told they're supposed to be heading down, but they're not. So hopefully by April that will start happening and we'll start seeing results, better results in lower interest rates in the bond market. But if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. It's a bonus really for you guys, and you can always come back and get them next year or later with cash or some other form. Those are short-term bonds, also only going out to 2028. So again, you have all short debt. Then we'd add on the $300 million 2025, and we've projected those out. And at the end of the day, if you go to the far right-hand column of that chart, of that page, that table, the INS rate is, even adding $300 million on, would be less than what you have right now that's what's required. So you could keep that tax rate ultimately the same, drop it a little bit, whatever you want to do. If you kept it the same, obviously, you'd continue to set yourself up for more debt management programs in the following year. I think that about covers it. We put in the issuing the remaining authorization in 2026, as Scott had put in the board note there, that would also keep us at a rate well within the INS tax rate where you are now. So regardless, the district comfortably can put $500 million, sell $500 million worth of bonds, and not have to raise the INS tax rate. That's the ball. Still continue to pay off debt.
Are there any questions? Dr. Parker.
Just a recap, because I'm not like my colleague over here who understands these numbers backwards and forwards. But essentially, what I do get from this, what I understand from this, and I think you just said it, so I just want to rephrase it for those that might have missed it, is that part of why we were able to pass the bonds that we were able to pass in our last bond package without raising our INS rate is by processes like these, by defeasing these bonds down so that we have that extra room to be able to then go out for additional bonds, which, by the way, were for maintenance of our existing facilities. So am I correct? Have I stated that correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean, that was a key component of the overall program.
Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Yep.
I want to know where this puts us with amortization.
So we've continued to look at 20-year amortizations on your bonds, not extending any of that. So if you look at your overall payment structure, Ms. Prosnick, after 2028, if you look at that second column to the left, your debt service drops off significantly. And if you, even with the new debt, that's existing debt, even with the new combined debt, get to after the 2026s are added, it again starts dropping like a rock here after 2028. So you are in a very enviable position if we should need to go back to the voters in the next 5, 6, 7 years and be able to do this again and keeping that same tax rate, low INS tax rate that our taxpayers here in Lewisville ISD have been able to enjoy.
And then.
I will tell you, as one more thing aside,
Sure.
that I think is important that sets you all also apart, is that none of this here that we've taken into consideration we've not taken into consideration any revenue, the hold harmless money from the homestead exemptions, which everybody affectionately calls ASAHE, ASAHE these days. So that's a pretty big number that we have not put into this, and it's probably going to get bigger because they're talking about more. We understand it. Part of the plan is could be very well additional homestead exemption, so that could be impacted as well. So it puts you in a even more enviable position. So those are cash flow dollars that has not been taken into consideration here that would actually be there. Sorry to interrupt.
And then my favorite part is if we combine the deals is that we'd only be paying fees once.
That's true. If we sold bonds, even if you did a February deal and an April deal, it would be you would not have that same rating would be in place because it's only 2 months apart. But you wouldn't have a separate. There's certainly some value to putting them.
As you know, I know they're not large, but they annoy me. So, are there any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Martin.
Randy and Jason will be presenting this next item.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Rapp, and the board. So it's time once again to talk about our INS funds in action. So over the next, let's see. Over the next few months, we'll be bringing a lot of the year one GMPs to the board for approval. So tonight we're going to start with the first one. Is the guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, for the 2023 bond first sale DeGan Elementary School partial 20-year life cycle maintenance repair project. That's a lot of words. Basically, this is the rest of the work that's needed at DeGan Elementary. On this project, Stantec is our architect. Glyden Industries is our construction manager at risk. The project will include the paving replacements that we spoke about in December at the work session. The scope really includes the 1987 and 2001 editions. Those were the ones that were not included in the 2017 bond, the major renovation we did there. It does include the entire re-roof for the entire campus, which was not included in the 2017 bond. And excuse me, now that all the bids have been scoped and Glyden's had a chance to talk to the subcontractors, they really feel like they can get all this work accomplished in one summer. So our approach would not be the ceiling and above, ceiling and below. They feel like they can get it all done summer 2025. So this project was advertised and bid out to subcontractors by Glyden Industries. Glyden has evaluated and scoped those bids and provided a GMP to us of $8,681,238, which is within the overall project budget. And a recommendation to approve this GMP will be brought back next week on the 13th for approval. Rolling into our next one this is for the Lewisville Learning Center, 20-year life cycle maintenance and repair. This is actually just an early package. So the Learning Center is a bond first sale project scheduled to start construction this summer. Huckabee's the architect on this one. Glyden Industries is the construction manager at risk. So construction for this project will take place summer 2025 and 26. This specific GMP, as I mentioned, is really just an early release package for the HVAC equipment due to long lead items in order to meet the schedule. Materials. This portion of the project was advertised and bid out to subcontractors by Glyden. Again, they scoped those bids and provided a GMP of $951,348, which isn't within the overall project budget. So a recommendation to approve this early package will come next week. And then when we bring the full GMP for the project, this one will be rolled into it. So we're just tracking kind of one overall GMP for the project, one pay app, all that good stuff as we go through the project. Really just to kind of get a head start, get the HVAC equipment ordered early on this one. Our next item, I'm going to let Jason talk a little bit about solar panels.
All right. Good evening, Board, Dr. Rapp. We wanted to take this opportunity to talk about some potential solar projects, if you will. In the past, we have reviewed the use of solar panels, solar projects, if you will, many times really throughout the years. We talked to different administration at that time, and it really didn't make a lot of sense for us. Since that time, solar panel technology continues to improve, and with that, LISD energy rates have also increased. So when you're looking at a solar project, you must compare the initial cost, of course, versus the potential utility cost savings over time in order to determine what your return on investment will be. And as I mentioned, as rates go up, solar panels come down, it's starting to make some sense for us. LISD does receive electricity from multiple providers. Really, it's two right now, CoServe and Direct Energy, although Direct Energy also has two different T&D delivery groups, which are Encore and Texas New Mexico Power, that we work with. And as I mentioned, some electricity rates at this time are better than others, and as I mentioned, the higher the rate, the more beneficial these solar projects appear to be for LISD. And as you may know, solar panels require a large amount of surface area. And so for the district, what that means is our roofs are really the prime area which we could utilize for that. And you really need a lot of them to justify and you really get the amount of energy generation for what our schools use. And so, as I mentioned, ideal locations would be our very large roofs. And of course, the ideal time to install would be when a new roof is being applied. And that's because, solar panels are a 20-plus year product, and you don't want to have to remove the panels down the road to change your roof, because that's going to hurt, of course, your ROI at that time. So when we started looking and comparing all the 2023 bond first-year projects, the most ideal location came down to be Downing Middle School. It does have a higher electricity rate than some of the other locations. That's going to be one of our CoServe schools, and we pay about over 35% more with CoServe versus the other utility company. And because we have a 20-year life cycle maintenance and repair project there, we are planning to provide a new roof surface at that location. And so some of the numbers we've been looking at, we've had some different proposals come in. And so upfront installation costs for a solar project that we have evaluated, our first run at that proposal was around $700,000 for initial investment. Since that time, we've actually updated the proposal to really maximize the amount of roof space that we have at Downing. And so that kind of has gone up to around $825,000, if you will. But with that, as you increase, the federal incentives also increase. And so that $200,000 incentive has actually gone up to around $280,000. And so you're still looking at around a $500,000 to $550,000 investment after incentives. And we believe there's also a few other incentives out there that we may be able to get. So by doing that, we believe that the proposal states that the estimated annual M&O savings would be about $50,000 annually. That right now, currently, the energy usage at Downing the last 2 years is around $136,000 to $144,000 annually. So you're looking at about a 49% savings on energy use, which is about 35% of that cost.
Excuse me. So if desired, there's really kind of two approaches we could take. One, obviously, we have the 20-year life cycle maintenance repair project. We have a contractor on board with that, an architect on board. We could add this to that project through a change order, or we could do it as a separate standalone project. The key here, either way, is we need to have the design and bidding kind of complete for this summer, because we're doing ceiling and above, right? So roof will be done this summer. So really the opportunity to put the pads on the roof, to get your connections through the roof penetrations, all that kind of stuff, really needs to happen this summer. So two potential ways that this could be funded would be through bond savings or land sale proceeds. Obviously trying to get the upfront cost out of the M&O side and get the savings on the M&O side. So kind of why we brought this forward tonight. Finally, we got a slide just kind of showing the overall real estate here, how much real estate it takes for solar panels.
Yeah, the picture on the left shows the maximization. If you can see, all those dots on there are taking up almost all the available area of the roof for solar panels, and that, as I mentioned, gets us about 49% of the energy usage for that campus annually. And then not only is the cost savings important, of course, but the proposal also states, you can see on the left, it also has a very positive environmental impact as well. And so you can see the offsets there calculated over the next 20 years of the kind of your CO2 offset, miles driven by cars, and the number of trees planted equivalent.
All right, and my final piece for the 2023 bond is second sale, project and architect selections. So Mr. Martin had kind of talked about a minute ago our second sale potential. The second sale would include projects that start construction in summer 2026. All design work for that really kind of needs to begin soon in order to stay on schedule. The district has four approved architects that we work with. All four of those architects have verified that they have capacity to handle additional workload, and selections are made utilizing factors such as previous experience with the specific campus or project type, grouping similar project types together, and really just kind of spreading the workload around. You'll see a little pie chart here in a minute. All four of our architects are well equipped to handle any project that we have in this bond. So there's really not, one that specializes in a certain type of architecture. They really can handle anything. So here's kind of that pie graph that shows, we really do try to spread the work around between the four architects. Obviously, we take a lot of different things into consideration. Not only, we've got their current projects that they're working on for us from year one. Some of those are 3-year projects, right? So we take that into account as well. That's part of their workload as we move forward. Then here up on the screen, it's kind of hard to read, but this is the actual list of projects included for the 2023 bond in the year 2 sale. Here, we continue to have a few elementary school 20-year life cycle maintenance and repair projects. We also have some roofing projects and flooring projects. It's really very similar to kind of the package that we had in year 1. The biggest difference is we don't have the high schools included on this, obviously. So with that, I know we went through a lot of different topics. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the 2023 bond.
Dr. Barker.
Less of a question and more of a comment. And I know that Ms. Taylor will probably dig into the numbers more, but I want to talk about the instructional impact of having solar panels, especially at a STEM academy. I've had the opportunity to tour a few buildings in California that were built as STEM academies, and one of the things that they included were panels in the hallway that identified exactly how much solar power was being provided from their solar panels, and then the students were able to do, various projects with that data from their very own building. So you talk about that environmental impact, but we also have that instructional impact, and then they can do some of those same calculations. We've saved this many trees this year at Downing. We've done this, we've offset this many cars on the roads, et cetera, math projects, English projects. So in addition, I just want us to consider that when we think about solar panels, that yes, there's that financial impact, but we can also do a lot of really cool things in the classroom.
Dr. Bonner.
Ms. Taylor had a few questions down there. Oh, you're deferring. Okay, all right. I didn't want you to pass my colleague. I'm pretty excited about these solar panels. I'm kind of a weirdo. I don't know if any of y'all know that or not, but I've been reading about solar energy since I was about 12 or 13. And so I'm pretty excited about this being on the table tonight. And I just want to encourage us to maybe not think about it from a single campus perspective, but an overall energy consumption approach, right? So the numbers about Downing are great, but that's not the only place we burn electricity, right? So what is it as a percentage of entire consumption across the district, that sort of thing? And the reason I'm rolling that out there is, the past several months we've been dealing with school retirements. And I hate to even bring it up. We're just getting over it, maybe. But Downing was on that list. And so I think it would be a poor usage of our funds to consider that until we make a decision on what we're going to go with that. And so I wanted to throw that out there. Now, if I can get into the geek questions a little bit, does Texas allow sale of electricity back to a provider off of solar panels? Do y'all know off the top of your heads?
Yes.
They do,
It's
okay.
relatively new for them to purchase it back from school districts, as I'm told.
Will they just purchase it? Is it carved out to businesses and commercial and school districts, or is it statewide? I've never researched it, so you're helping me out.
Yeah, that I'm not sure of. I'll
Okay.
have to research that.
Well, the reason I'm asking that is that would be a benefit. I don't know if the consumption at a school would ever drop so low as we could sell back, but I was interested in that. And then it seems like I had one more question. Oh, the other question was on purchase and insurance costs. Have we weighed that in? Because, that end of the world gets hit by hail a lot, and I'd hate to cover that thing in PV sales and then lose them all next spring. So thank you.
Yeah, so just do that very quickly, and I would answer that, say yes and no. Some of the proposals that we've seen, and this is just one example of a proposal that we would be looking at if we decided to go forward with a project like this. Some of the proposals I've seen, you have to provide your own insurance, but I've also heard that providing solar panels can decrease the roofing side of your insurance, but then you may have to provide a different policy for the solar panels. And I've had other proposals that say they take care of that as part of the proposal, but of course they're going to charge you for that, so your ROI is going to go up a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you. I hadn't thought about it being a protector to the roof level. And then lastly, this just hit me while you were talking about that. And we're talking about purchasing these cells. I know there's some instances where these outfits lease the cell and blah, blah, blah. We're talking about purchase, we own, et cetera. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Ms. Taylor?
And see, Dr. Bonner did ask one of my questions, even though I put on my note I was going to send it privately, but I did have a question about the same kind of question, or raising that issue, that when we looked at campus utilization, that Downing was on the list, we as a board decided, not to pursue anything related to middle schools, but wondering if this was a good idea without deciding where we land. So I definitely agree with that. My other question was related to the savings, and, I guess we break even about year 10, I believe it was, and then you have, I guess, $500,000 of savings over the next 10 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Would the roof then need to be replaced after that 10 years, and what happens? Is there reinstallation? Is it the same cost? What happens at the end of that 10 years?
So yes, you're absolutely right on your math. Of course, at the 10 years, the solar panels are actually rated beyond 20 years.
Okay.
And because they're over the roof, we feel like we could get more out of the roof. So we think they would age pretty much together. That's our kind of crystal ball, if you will. So we think we could get over 20 on both and can just continue to get the savings from the solar panels on that roof.
Okay. And then my other question was related to DeGan, and, I don't know for sure. I've been there, and it kind of looks like that parts of DeGan, I guess, don't match other parts.
Yes, ma'am.
Will this cure that issue?
Yes, ma'am. So as best we can, yes, ma'am. It does include some aesthetic aspects to the exterior. We had to reskin that entire building. That was a pretty large change order in the last bond. It was kind of a surprise. We opened up the walls, and the existing structure was not great. So we did a lot of work there and actually put up new brick in the old portion. We obviously we didn't touch the 87 or 2001 wings then because it wasn't ready yet. It's planned in this bond. So now we are hoping to go back and at least kind of blend that in better, make it more. We're not going to be able to replace all the brick to make it perfectly match, but we think we got some ideas to help blend that in better. So. Yeah, and I will note, like on the solar panel, part of the reason we brought it up is, again, we got the two buckets, right? And one bucket is a little more healthy than the other. And so you can use the healthy bucket to purchase the solar panels and immediately get an impact on your unhealthy bucket, which was one of the reasons why we were bringing it. So.
Ms. Sells?
I just have a couple of them. They're probably geek questions, like Dr. Bonner. He's cheering me on over there. Because we have two researched and have a couple of solar panels up at our other property. Anyway, what I had discovered when we did what we did there was, are these going to be flat on the roof? Because from what I understand, that's not really the most efficient use.
No, I don't think they're flat. I think they're just on a structure.
They're angled.
Yes,
Okay,
it's-
because they look flat on that picture, and so I was like, I don't think that that's
No, that's
what.
not the case.
And then how do the Fed incentives work? Is it just something that we say we're doing this and we get them? Do we have to wait for approval? The Fed incentives.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes, I think we just submit for that and show that you're doing the project, and it will take a few months, what I understand, to get the monies back from the federal incentive.
But there's not an option once we apply that they say no. That's
the way I understand it, ma'am.
Okay.
I can certainly get more information on that.
perfect. And then I had the insurance and the hail questions too. The additional incentives, are we just researching those right now?
Yes, and my energy manager had mentioned one to me, and I was going to mention, and I've forgotten it, but there are certain other incentives that are much smaller, of course, than that,
Right.
but there are some. One was up to like 8%, so that was pretty attractive. We were discussing it today. There are some other ones to review.
Like all dollars. And what is the difference, benefits and negatives, of the two ways to do this, the change order or the standalone? Is there any difference? Sorry, Ms. President. And why, what is staff's recommendation and why? Can you justify that?
Sure. I mean, and I appreciate you asking. Personally, I feel like a change order is a good approach because we already have the architect on board and we already have the general contractor on board, the CMAR on board, right? And so they can immediately get to work on the bidding and purchasing aspect. Whereas if we do it as a separate project, we'll have to kind of develop our own specifications on our own. We'll have to work with contracts and procurement to get that done, and that's a process. It takes a few months. And again, we have a short window of opportunity here in order to really get this done on that roof this summer. So my recommendation would be to do the change order. But either way.
To piggyback, what's the cost of a change order? Because every time I know that someone says change order, there are dollar signs attached. So
Yeah, I mean, so you would be paying, you would be paying the CMAR's fee, right? So there's an established fee rate that y'all saw when they were approved on the project. If you add any scope to that project, obviously they get a fee on top of that. So that would be the increased cost.
I'd like to know that amount, just
Sure, yes.
for us,
Yeah,
if you
I'll
could get
send
that.
in the board, yeah.
And then my last question that I could think of right here off the top of my head is on the Lewisville Learning Center, and this is just a curious question, and what are we going to do with it until you do bring that to us at a later time, is what is the lead time on materials? And we've had this discussion since COVID because materials have fluctuated increasingly and depending on what it is. What are we talking lead time, and are we going to have to store this over in Ms. Prosnick's garage? Or?
No, I don't think so. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, over the next few months you'll see a lot of GMPs coming. Typically we use the same type of HVAC unit. We kind of specify the same type of unit. And so some of our CMARs are saying, hey, it's no problem. We're talking to the vendors and we can take a GMP in April and we're going to be okay. Glidden on this one really felt like they needed to get ahead of the game and really get these ordered, kind of get it ahead at the top of the line, so to speak, like at the top of the queue. So yeah, to answer your question, we've talked to the actual manufacturer directly, and they say there's no problem getting these units for the summer. We do it every year. We always bring GMPs in January, February, March, and April, and we always do ceiling and above that first summer. So again, I kind of have to go on what this particular CMAR is saying is needed for this particular project.
speaking of AC units, one of my questions was, are we going to be using the same kind of AC units that we used at two of our most recent high school renovations that we've had so many issues with?
No, these are different. So I know what you're talking about, and those are actually split systems, and we don't usually do that. We use package units, so it's a completely different type of unit. And actually, this go-around this year, we had a lot of meetings with facility services. Actually opened up our specification a little bit to simplify things and get some more competition and all that. So no, these will not be like the units that were used.
Okay, and then, because I have such a smart board, they asked many of my questions. But my other question was there any other schools kind of in the note, because we had talked about Downing being
Right.
a possible retirement, were there any other schools that made your top 5 list
Not for this summer.
Not for this summer,
Right.
but maybe for next
Yes.
summer? I mean,
Yes,
what would those be?
We'll have to bring those back to you
Okay.
and do the analysis, yes, ma'am. But, so we kind of looked at what was going on this summer and just kind of targeted. Again, it really goes down to what's the electricity rate you're paying. Because if you've got a good rate, the ROI is not that great, right? So we will certainly take a look at years 2 through 5 and bring back a recommendation for those. This was really just to kind of see the appetite. We, as Jason mentioned, we've looked at this many times through the years. And if it's something that you want us to pursue, we can certainly invest.
And so you talked earlier about how the average life cycle span for a solar panel was more than 20 years. Right. Did they give you a specific number? Because the roofs, for the most part, are more than 20 years in the district. They're usually more around like 25 by the time we get to them, and some are certainly closer to 30. So I don't want to put anything on a roof that's not going to last as long as the roof, and I know that you stated earlier you feel like it would help protect the roof. But I'm kind of curious how long the solar panels themselves are going to last.
So it varies a little bit on the solar panel manufacturer, but it's anywhere from 20 to 30, even a little bit longer than that is what I'm hearing. So as long as the solar panel lasts less time than the roof, I don't feel like it's an issue, because what we don't want to do is have to remove the solar panels and incur that cost to change the roof. If the solar panels last less than, they're gone, then you do the roof at a later time. It's not going to hurt your ROI on that solar project.
And what kind of maintenance do solar panels require, if any?
It's supposed to be very little maintenance. And so it really is, and some of the proposals are, as I mentioned, that they vary a little bit. Some of them include maintenance. Some of them do not, but we're told in some of our research and reaching out to some other areas is that it is very, very low maintenance unless you have an issue like a hail event. But even with that, the solar panel technology has gotten a lot better, and it will accept a lot larger size of hail before it's supposed to take damage. And again, that's a bit relative to manufacturers, but it is much larger than it used to be.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Any more geek questions from that side of the table? All right, no, thank you so much. And we're moving on.
Okay, it's still me, and I realized I left a couple of slides off, so I apologize. I usually do the recap at the end. In January, you'll see on the consent, I mentioned already, the DeGan and Lewisville Learning Center early package GMPs, as well as this approval of the second-year projects and architect selections. In February, we've got our 3 middle schools that we're planning on bringing the 20-year, the guaranteed maximum price for the 20-year life cycle maintenance repair project. Okay, so now I'll roll into, I have to open it up. Get the next presentation. Okay, so now we'll roll into the 2024 bond program. And with this one, very similar. You'll see the pretty much the same slides. It's the year 2 projects and architect selections. This time it's just for the 2024 bond. So this is all the same information about the 4 architects that we work with, their skills, how we decide who works on what. Same pie chart, really, it's all uses the same figures. We included everything. The only difference is here you see the list and you can read it a little bit better for the actual projects. I will note the very first project listed on here. I wanted to list it because it is a year 2, but you guys have already approved, the board has already approved the civil engineer for that project. And so really the architect selections are from Lewisville High School down on this list here. We will be coming back on our next steps to talk about consent item next week for that. And I don't have anything currently planned for February for 2024 bond. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
And I can look it up, and so if you want me to look up, I can. Can you remind me when we're doing the scoreboards?
The scoreboards is just about to bid out, so we're hoping to get that done this summer.
So that would also be a summer project for this summer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, our goal's ready for football season. So.
Yay. Anything else? All right.
All right, thank you. I'm done.
The next item is proposed budget amendments for the General Fund and Child Nutrition Fund, and this is for items that were not included in the adopted budgets. The first one is for general fund. It's to increase various functions by $5.9 million for the one-time payment for staff that was approved by the board. The second part of that is to increase function 81 by $261,000 for settlement costs for the sale of Wager Road. And these items, since they were not included in the adopted budget, would decrease. Second budget amendment is for the Child Nutrition Fund. It's to increase function 35 by $307,000 for the one-time payment for staff, and by $372,000 for furniture replacement project at Lewisville High School. Also decrease fund balance, help draw down the fund balance.
Ms. Taylor?
Can you remind me, is the furniture replacement, is that cafeteria furniture?
Yes, that's correct. Cafeteria.
Okay.
It's mainly tables and chairs.
Okay.
And this was not part of the original spend down?
That's correct.
So this is in addition to the original plan spend down?
In addition to.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next.
And then the last item is the January 13th regular board meeting consent agenda preview. Just highlighting some of the items that will be on the consent agenda. In your board packet, you'll see there's just a few that are listed. And at this time, I was just going to highlight the one for the renewal of the external auditors. We've been using Whitley Penn to perform the audit of the district's financial statements since 2010. If renewed, this would be the last year for their contract. And so we have to go out for a new RFQ. Those items, as I mentioned, will be brought at the next board meeting.
Ms. Taylor?
With regards to the RFQ process for the independent auditor, how often is that done?
I believe we typically do that every 5 years. This is the last year that we could actually renew.
All right. You're off the hook now. Congratulations.
Okay.
Mr. Colbeck, the technology report.
All right, thank you, Madam President. I'm asking Chris Langford to join us as well, and this, again, as a reminder, is related to 2023 bond funding in INS funds. In the last few months, really the last part of 2024, we have done a lot of projects. So we're starting to slow down a little bit, so we don't have a lot of information on this report, nor will we have it again in February. But we do have a few things. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Chris. He's going to go over some of the topics that we have and the timelines with them. So, Chris, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. First project that we're going to discuss is the Cellular Distributed Antenna System project. This is the third time you've seen this item because it required a three-step process. This is the project that's going to put in that cellular DAS system at all the campuses around the district to provide cellular connectivity at all parts of the campus. So in case there's an emergency, staff will be able to use their cell phone and have voice connectivity. You saw the first step, which was the engineering services in August. You approved the construction delivery method in September. Since then, we've done the full procurement process, and we're ready to bring this back, the entire project, as a consent item next week. Second project is the electrical services for the Phase 2 of the WAN fiber ring. The board approved the construction of Phase 2 of the WAN fiber ring at the June board meeting. There is additional equipment that is required to connect all the campuses onto the fiber ring as part of Phase 2, and at some of those campuses we're going to require electrical services to support that additional equipment because we don't have enough power to our closets to be able to do that. And so, again, this was a three-step process. You saw the engineering services in August, and the board approved the construction delivery method in September. We've gone through the procurement process and are ready to bring the electrical services back as a consent item next week.
So on this, just to kind of point out, there's three steps. It's like three cubed, right? Because you have the construction part of physically getting the fiber in the ground. You have the three-step process on the electrical, and then a process for buying the actual equipment. So this is specific to just the electrical needs.
Yes,
Okay?
and this should be the last approval for this project because you've already approved the construction of the fiber itself and the equipment that we needed for this project. So, and this is phase 2, which is a 2023 bond project. Everything else you've seen about the WAN fiber ring was phase 1 that was done as part of the 2017. So it seems like there's a lot because it's a very large project that spanned 2 different bond packages.
Yep. All right, next item.
Yeah, so this is something you haven't seen before, oddly enough. So this is for a refresh of our InfoBlocks DNS and DHCP system. DNS and DHCP are 2 protocols that are required for all network connectivity, and we use InfoBlocks. That's a system that we use to power all of our DNS and DHCP. No network connectivity is possible without that. These systems were put in place in the spring of 2020 as part of the 2017 bond. The system we have now was both physical components, so physical hardware that we have in our data center, and then virtual hardware that runs in our virtual server environment. The physical hardware is over 5 years old at this point, or is approaching 5 years old and needs to be replaced. And then all of the licensing, maintenance, and support that we purchased for the physical and virtual components is expiring this spring, and so that needs to be renewed. So we're going to refresh the physical components and then purchase all new licensing, maintenance, hardware, everything that we need their support. And so we'll work with procurement and contracts to come up with an appropriate procurement method for all of the needed items. And then we will bring this back for approval as a consent item at a future board meeting.
All right, thanks, Chris. So to really put it into summary, as we look at January consent, we're bringing forward the electrical components as well as the cellular distributed antenna system. That's consent for the January board meeting. In February, if you look at the slide that you have in board book, it says no topics. We do have a topic, and we'll have the 2023 bond consent item for Apple residual value. As I shared in the board update prior to holiday break, we're bringing that one back. So that'll be the only item we're anticipating for discussion and possibly action in February. So with that, if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them.
Okay, this is just for my education here. What do DNS and DHCP stand for?
So DNS is domain name service. So when you put in google.com, that's the domain name is google.com, and there's an address tied to that called an IP address. Think of it like when you look at your contacts on your phone, you have the name, you have the phone number, so you don't have to know everybody's phone number. You can just look at the name. You put in google.com, you don't have to know the IP address for it. And then DHCP is Dynamic Host Control Protocol. That is what supplies all of our IP addresses to our devices. So when your device boots up and connects to the network, it asks for an address and it communicates through DHCP to obtain that address so that it can then communicate back and forth and send all the network communication it needs to.
Thank you. I now understand all of that.
And I'll add to that too, like in our situation, this is a pretty enterprise environment. So you may look at that and say, boy, we need like that kind of hardware for that. But we're talking about, maybe 70,000 devices that are authenticating in a day. So you need enterprise grade appliances that handle those types of services.
And I don't believe you that this is the last time you're going to talk to me about that ring. That's all I'm going to say. I'm excited for it, though. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is the Board of Trustees report, which is me. Naming Facilities Committee. Do you have anything to add, Ms. Taylor?
We don't have anything to add at this time. I did reach out by email to the committee members, Drs. Bonner and Barker, and we will be getting together later this month, and we'll have an update after that time.
Very good. Are there any other committee reports? Ms. Sells?
Once again, we did meet, and our audit committee does need to meet again. It's kind of an ever-rounding thing. We do have a couple of items there that are of concern to us that we would like clarification, and so if okay, I'll be reaching out to you for further instruction. I need some direction on the method to go, but I'll also be reaching out to my committee members, and I appreciate their input. So, thank you.
Very good.
President?
Yes.
I will be needing to meet with those on my committee, which is you and Ms. Alcatib this month. So,
I look forward to the email.
yes.
Calendar invite. Very good. All right. As no action will need to be taken on the following items, we will move forward in the agenda to item L, which is the adjourning of tonight's meeting. So, if there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned, and the time is 8:13 p.m. Have a pleasant evening and a happy new year.